project originally started by W.B. Du Bois to give inspiration to Black children. A great continuation you have here. So just wanted you to highlight the project and what you're looking to
I'm going to hold it
accomplish.
up real quickly so you can see it. This is the early copies. They're going to be coming out October the 10th. So grab your copy now, grab your copy. I have cards so you can pre-order, but we have an event October the 10th where they're going to get signed by some of the artists and the writers that were a part of it. The story behind this, which became very significant, is that Dr. Corita Brown, my wife, is a sociologist and Black historian, but her specialty is she is a scholar of W.E.B. Du Bois. And about 7, 8 years ago, she originally came to me because she was doing research on a book that she was writing. And Du Bois did plays, he did art, he wrote numerous books. Souls of Black Folk have been reprinted 1,000,000 times. We try to collect every different copy and cover. But she came back one day and said, did you know that Du Bois also, he was part of co-founding the NAACP and also started a magazine that still exists today called Crisis. But he saw a need for a magazine periodical for Black children. He called it For Children of the Sun. And what he did was and a lot of people don't know about it, including my wife, who is a scholar of Du Bois, is that the book the periodical only lasted a year and a half. So he produced it in 1920, and by the end of 22, it was no longer in existence because he financed it on his own. He got the printer to do it for little or nothing. But what he did, and it inspired the concept for my wife and I, was that he got on the phone, he sent letters, he telegraphed, he did whatever he could to get some of the noted Black writers and artists from around the country. And he said, clearly, give me some of your best work. It's for Children of the Sun. And he said, the truth was, especially back then, but it's kind of true to some degree now, there is not enough positive imagery of us, of our children, and who we are and what we're doing. And so we pretty much did the same thing. We got a little bit of money, and when it came to paying writers, paying the artists, but we got on the calls to say, this is what we're trying to do, can you give us something? And so we have 50 writers and artists that are a part of this book. One of our goals, we had 2 goals. One was lofty, no it's not, it's real. We wanted to be on the table, we wanted to be on the coffee table of every Black family in the world. That's a small one. And the other thing was we wanted to be on the New York Times best-selling list. And that's starting to happen. In fact, we flew to New York because we actually got invited and been interviewed by the New York Times to promote the book. And the book hasn't been released yet. So those kinds of things are happening. But when you look at this, and I've been working in the art world for over 40 years, I can say honestly, this is probably one of the most proudest moments in my life. When this book arrived and I saw it for the first time, it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm very proud of it. I wrote a couple of stories in it. You'll see my art throughout it, but you'll see other artists that I just picked up a phone and said, can you do this? And people have asked already, and I know we're thinking about it, and we know so many artists that we didn't invite the first time that when we do it again, we're going to reach out to more. We're going to first give the artists that said yes the first time, and then we're going to bring in and invite other artists and invite writers. I have one friend who's a noted writer who said yes, then he said no, then he said, let me think about it. And he came up and visited recently and he saw the book and you could see him looking at it and saying, I should have said yes. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want people to feel. I want them to feel what this book is about, which is about Black family, Black love, and just acknowledging even a good friend of mine who contributed a story in it. It's called Mama Sick. And she teases me when I say it. I knew when she went from ashy to classy. And I remember when she was a beautician and saying, I'm going back to school so I can learn how to write, or so I can improve my writing abilities. And so I've watched her journey the last 10 years. And she is amazing where she's at right now. But I remember when she submitted her story, Mama Sick. And it's really about a child watching their mom make that transition. I lost my mother, I was 48 or something like that. But to this very day, I think about her every day. But because because she was that instrumental in my life. She was my shero. But as I started to read this book, this short story, I couldn't get through it. Every time I'd start reading it, I'd break down. And I told her one day, I'm like, I'm not sure if it's because it's so well written, because it is. I don't know if I'm thinking about my mother when I'm reading it, because I am. Aura, just so incredibly proud of you. But it took me a moment to really get to this story because it's so powerful in that way. But it's those kinds of stories. There's a brother, I don't know if you know Keith, Keith Cross, who lives here. Keith had called me one day. He told me a story during the time of the murder of George Floyd and all the protests that we had around the country. And he told me that his daughter came to him one day and said, I don't want to be black anymore. And then she gave the examples of, look at the news. It's like, they're killing us. And so it's like, you know what? I completely understand that. I said, Keith, write a story. And so him and his wife got together, wrote a story, and then Keith illustrated it. And I love it because halfway through the book, you'll get this comic strip of a little child, and you'll see all the things that she is going through in being black in America. And so that's the kind of stuff that you'll see in this book. So please support the book, but I think you will truly enjoy it. And thank you for asking.